Okay, so our first lesson we're going to go over is going to be for the year 2000, the year 2008. Okay, and so when we understand that, we have to understand about the year 2000 presidential election, which is interesting for two reasons. Not only it was a very, very close election, the closest we've had in modern history, but also it's the only Supreme Court case, it's the only presidential election decided by a Supreme Court case, which is going to be Bush versus Gore. So let's go ahead and look at how that came out to be. So on election day at 7:50 p.m., some polls claiming that Gore had won Florida and therefore the election. By 10 p.m., with more votes being counted, the result went back to undecided. By 2:30 a.m., Bush was declared the winner with a lead of 100,000 votes, 85% of the votes counted. At 4:30 a.m., Gore narrowed the vote to 2,000 and withdrew his concession. A concession is when you have two people running for president, and it's obviously that the other one's going to win, so you just go ahead and just kind of forfeit, which is normal. Eventually, Bush's lead was cut into 900, and this led to a mandatory recount. Okay? And so George W. Bush is being advised by a very smart legal team, and they tell him that the only way they're going to achieve what they want to achieve is by using the court system, the legal system. And so the court action put into place to resolve this issue of the presidency was Bush versus Gore. It was in response to the various lawsuits opened by the candidates regarding ballot rigging and voter intimidation. Florida itself couldn't choose a winner because of the closeness of the vote, and recounts were very, very difficult. Okay, so if you look at this Newsweek cover, it says the winner is the inside story of America's closest, craziest election. Half of it is President-elect, Vice President Al Gore, and on the right is President George W. Bush. So this was Bush versus Gore was the third judicial intervention. The first was Bush versus Palm Beach. Second was known as Bush versus Gore, even though it wasn't really what it was called, and it prevented a recount. And finally, Bush versus Gore, the Supreme Court case, was the final ruling, 5-4 in favor of Bush. And so, like I said, Bush had a very smart legal team advising him. They realized that if he could make it all the way to the Supreme Court, there was a 5-4 conservative majority over the liberals. So the way that the Supreme Court justice works is that Supreme Court cases only deal with issues of constitutionality. There are 9 justices, and the way you become a justice is you are appointed by a president. So a Democratic liberal president is going to nominate liberal justices, and conservative Republican presidents are going to nominate conservative justices as well. And so the count was 5-4, and so they're going to follow those party lines, and President George W. Bush is going to become president. So the first thing he's going to do, I think it's the second day while he's in office, is he's going to pass No Child Left Behind. This should have been up there, but it's not a big deal as long as you understand. He's going to pass No Child Left Behind. That's going to create standardized testing, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, okay? And then on June 7th, 2001, he's going to give a $1.35 billion tax cut for America's wealthiest people. Okay, later on that year, the September 11th, they're going to attack. Okay, which is going to lead to a nationwide feeling of fear and kind of togetherness that you had to, I guess, kind of experience to understand. But the next bullet, he's going to sign into law the USA Patriot Act, which grants the government the ability to monitor American citizens. So not just foreign, non-U.S. citizens. This is going to give the United States government the ability to monitor its own citizens. He's going to start Operation Enduring Freedom, which is payback for 9/11. That's in Afghanistan. He's going to start Operation Iraqi Freedom, which is going to be based off a bunch of weird reasons that are going to be turned out to be not true. He was a president in 2005 during Hurricane Katrina, which is probably the single most devastating natural disaster to hit the United States in recent time. It hit a very poor district of New Orleans, a predominantly African American district. And George W. Bush, his response was very little too late. A lot of people died, and it's looked at as a scar kind of on his presidency. And then finally, the 2008 financial crisis with the collapse of the home market, the mortgage market, is going to be on his watch as well. So let's go and look at some of these things more specifically. So the first thing we're going to look at is No Child Left Behind. No Child Left Behind made George W. Bush passed it. It's like I said, it's going to make it a federal law. It's going to prepare students to compete in a global marketplace. That's what it's designed to do. It's mandated, it's mandatory state academic ability tests. And so the way they make states do stuff is that they say if you do this, you receive federal funds and you receive federal money for your schools and yada yada yada. If you don't, you don't. And so all, pretty much if there aren't all 50 states, I'd be surprised, but the majority of states in this country, Texas included, is going to abide by this and have standardized tests. In this state, Texas, it's called the EOC, the End of Course STAR exam, which is what you're actually studying for as we speak. And now we're going to talk about the most significant event any of us have lived through. The attacks of September 11th. It happened on Tuesday, September 11th, 2001. That's a picture of New York's skyline. Here we have the World Trade Center, the North and South Towers. Okay. The attacks, Al-Qaeda called the 9/11 attacks in New York the Manhattan Raid. And when they do that, they're going to strike the North and the South Tower, which are the two symbols of our economic strength. They possibly wanted to hit eastern and western targets, but there's no need to because the majority of important targets are located in the eastern United States. You have New York City, a symbol of economic power, like I said before, and Washington, D.C., which is strength is a symbol of government and military power. Okay, and so they're going to try to hit these four major targets: the North Tower, the South Tower, the World Trade Center, symbols of economic strength. The third time, the Pentagon, right here, which is a symbol of military strength. And the fourth plane's allegedly going to be crashed in Pennsylvania. The reason I put allegedly is because, as you can see in this picture, there's no sort of plane in that picture. There is an entire genre of documentaries and websites dedicated to this website, to this concept of 9/11 and what it could have been. I'm not going to discuss that on this PowerPoint, but you're more than welcome to investigate for yourself. Moving on. So the group responsible for the 9/11 attacks was Al-Qaeda, which is Arabic for the base. The founder was Osama bin Laden. That's this guy right here on the right. And since he's passed away, he was killed in 2011. This guy, the brains of the operation, is Dr. Ayman al-Zawahiri, and he's still running it today. At this time, when this happened, their known location was Afghanistan. Al-Qaeda had been founded in the 1980s. It's important for me to say the reason they're in Afghanistan is because the Taliban, which we'll talk about in a little bit, embraced them and allowed them to come in after Osama bin Laden was kicked out of the Sudan. Okay. So Zawahiri joined bin Laden in 1988 and took responsibility for the 9/11 attacks, which led to the American war in Afghanistan. This picture right here is a map of all the countries that Al-Qaeda is located in. Okay? And so, because of these attacks, the Bush Doctrine is going to go into effect. The night of September 11th, September 2001, President Bush addressed the country about the events of the day. In this speech, he makes a broad announcement committing the United States to military action. He says, we, the United States, will make no distinction, there's no difference, between the terrorists who committed these acts of 9/11 and the countries who harbor them. So pretty much, if you have terrorists in your country, you should know that they're in your country, because if we know, then you certainly know. If we know you're harboring them and you're not turning them over to us, we're going to wage war against you. This is important because it's going to open the door to a lot of life-changing events for all of us. Also part of the Bush Doctrine, he's going to sign the law, the USA Patriot Act, we talked about earlier. It stands for uniting and strengthening America by providing appropriate tools required to intercept and obstruct terrorism. Okay, and that's pretty interesting how they made USA Patriot say something. This Patriot Act gives access to any tangible things you can touch, books, records, papers, and documents for any investigation into terrorist activity. And this allows the government to monitor electronic communications of American citizens. And it always, for the longest time, been able to monitor electronic communications of foreigners outside the United States, but actually with the passing of the USA Patriot Act, it allows the government to look inside its walls, inside its borders, and monitor Americans. Okay. Just so you know, that's important because every kick, every text message, every FaceTime, every direct message, every Facebook, every type of communication you can do, Snapchat, whatever, can be is intercepted and documented by the United States government. And if they need to later look at the information, they will. But all this information is being documented. Here's a political cartoon that shows President George W. Bush. He's dressed like a Greek god on top of a mountain called executive power. He's using what's used to intercept radio frequencies. And it says, "You dare question my authority to wiretap? Do not make me smite you." And he's talking to the Senate Judiciary Committee. Okay? And so he's using his power of executive power to put in this kind of stuff which wasn't necessarily the will of the people. And this is going to start the global war on terror. On 9/11, America realized that Al-Qaeda was more than a criminal threat and enterprise. Bin Laden, the network of Al-Qaeda, and the Taliban pose a dangerous threat and amass a capability to attack the United States government on its own soil. So they've gotten so sophisticated that they are able to attack us on our own land. Now, Al-Qaeda had been at war with us for the United States already for a long time. In another lesson, you'll learn that Ramzi Youssef, a member of Al-Qaeda, is going to bomb the World Trade Center in 93. However, I want to say it only kills 6 people, and so that's not going to draw a lot of response from the government. In 98, he's going to bomb both U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania. And so that's going to kill a few more people. It's synchronized. It kind of shows the coordination abilities of Al-Qaeda, but it's not enough deaths and not enough publicity to get Americans behind a drastic war on terror. And then finally, the USS Cole, which we'll talk about later, which we talked about earlier with the Clinton years, where about, I think 17 U.S. sailors were killed off the coast of Yemen in the Middle East by a group of Al-Qaeda. And so these are 3 attacks that have been waged against the United States that we have not retaliated against. And again, it's because whether it's right or wrong, you need high body counts for the American government to retaliate in a meaningful way. Continued. The United States would be getting involved in military operations throughout the world in order to stop terrorist organizations. This opens the door for military operations in Afghanistan and Iraq. And so with this program that I use, it only gives me up to 15 minutes per video, and we're at the 13-minute mark. And so I'm going to stop here, and I'll pick up with Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan in this next video. Okay? And as always, like I'll end every video, thanks so much for your attention. If you have any questions about the lesson or anything else course related, it's U.S. history related, please contact me through the class Facebook page, its Twitter account, or YouTube channels. If you don't have any ability to hit me up, then hit me up via email, which my email address at the school is chrisdeleon@sbcisd.net. Please, please, please don't hesitate to hit me up. Thank you.